Welcome to the Messy Middle Road Trip podcast. Today, Sandra and I are coming together to celebrate 2 months of podcasting together. We also wanted to dig into a topic that many of you might relate to as entrepreneurs during COVID. For some, it was a time of immense growth and opportunity, and for others, it was the end of a journey. And we know you'll love it, so let's grab the snacks, call shotgun, and hit the road for another episode.
I'm Sandra.
And I'm Nicole, and we're entrepreneurs,
Wives,
a mom,
a favorite auntie,
creative souls,
and women who are fearlessly navigating the middle of life.
We created a community of women over 40 who embrace the past, appreciate where we are now, and take action to live our best life because it's all about the journey. Sandra, we have done a lot together in the past few months.
I know. It hasn't even been that much time. Yeah.
No. When I looked back at our first podcast that we released together, I was like, wow, that was the beginning of September. That's fantastic. So we've had some amazing conversations with some amazing women. So just in case our listeners haven't had a chance to kind of take a peek at those, you can certainly go back and binge listen. So we had Angela Lucier from Speaker Sisterhood. We had Natalie Bonifay from Menopause Cafe, Connecticut. We had Margaret Tantillo from Dress for Success. And you had mentioned in a Facebook post yesterday that we've got some upcoming episodes with author, speaker, musician Carrie Rowan about releasing our negative stories and bringing joy to midlife. And actually, this afternoon, we're going to be recording with spiritual midwife Jade Young from Hawaii, where we discuss our awakening our inner wild woman, which I think is going to be a fantastic conversation.
I only wish we could do that one live with her in Hawaii.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? I know.
It'd be a nice little teleport, right?
Sure would. I'm sure the weather will be a bit better than it is today. It's cold and rainy in New England today.
Yeah.
Sandra, share with me what has been the best bit about co-hosting the podcast so far.
Well, I remember last year I wrote a speech for my Speaker Sisterhood Club, and one of the questions that was asked of me was, how would people describe me? And so I asked a bunch of friends, how would you describe me in 3 words? And one of my friends used the word curious, which I loved. And I would say that has always been true of me, particularly in regard to people. And so being on the show has been super fun for me because I get to listen to their story and then I get to ask questions, and I get to do it in a format that is totally acceptable, as opposed to me sitting down on a bench next to a stranger and just asking them about their life. So being able to dive in and hear people talk about life passions or challenges that they have faced, and really just kind of digging into that a little bit and doing that with you, who has a totally different perspective and a new set of questions for them than I do, has been really, really fun. And I look forward to doing more of this.
Absolutely. I think it's so cool because everybody's got a story, and to be able to share a part of that and experience, like you said, an accomplishment or something that has been a big transition in their life, and to just know that, we can certainly have these conversations offline and they would still be amazing, but to be able to share this with listeners from all over the globe has just been so amazing. And it tickles me that we get messages from folks across the pond, and, being able to really just find that midlife connection about what is important right now. What are the conversations that we are all having at this stage in this season of our life? So yeah, I'm thrilled that you're on board. And I think we are definitely finding our way and finding our rhythm and our flow. And it's been a wonderful change. I think it's been refreshing. As much as I love Janine and all the work that she and I put in at the beginning of this, I think this is going to take us in a whole different trajectory, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And I also think as we move into winter, when we have a little bit of time for hibernation, if that even happens, and we can get into that, but I feel like to have that reflection time
Mhm.
will also allow us to tweak things as we move forward.
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yeah.
So let's really get into what we do and how we've been affected over the last 6 months or so as entrepreneurs. Do you want to tell people a little bit about your business and what you do, and then I can step in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with the wellness business that I'm in. I stepped into that space about 5 years ago. Uh, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time and was really um, pulled to share this information with people because I was on my own health journey, uh, battling an autoimmune disorder, and really trying to make healthy choices with moving my body, what I was eating, what I thought I was putting on my body for personal care and cleaning products, and realized that for decades I had been greenwashed. I didn't realize that I should be reading labels in toothpaste and shampoo, just like we do at the grocery store when we're looking at fat and sodium and sugar content. And I thought to myself, okay, I didn't know any of this information, and I'm an educated woman. And I felt pulled to share this with others who at least wanted the information to be empowered. Because at the end of the day, what we use for our products, it's about choice. And I find that by sharing that information and empowering someone, at least they have it in their back pocket to be able to draw the line in the sand and say, well, this is important to me, or this isn't. I'm going to stick with my regular products that I'm using. So by being able to empower others to live a healthier lifestyle, that has empowered me to walk the walk and talk the talk. It kind of holds me accountable as well. And some of the stories that people have shared with me in that space, by being able to swap out a product where they can get their child off of steroid cream, or they can stop taking asthma medications because their cleaning products aren't affecting their breathing anymore. Like, those stories to me are just life changing. And that's the thing that I love about working in this space, working with my team of people, is that we are all working for the same purpose under the same umbrella, but we're independent consultants. So I am running this business the way I want to, and my best friend is running the business the way she wants to, and how we show up is based on our schedules and how much we want to commit for time and where we want to go with this. And some people can do it on a very casual basis, and some people do it on a much more full-time gig like I'm doing. But I think that really that wellness space and being able to not only educate folks, but to also offer a solution with my company and the products that we offer that are 100% free of harmful ingredients, that has been amazing to me, because I know it's good for me, good for my family, the environment, and the folks that I'm in touch with and building relationships with. So that has been wonderful. So yeah, so the company I work for that is called Pure Haven. And through my bio, you can certainly learn more information, but that's my jam. I'm all about the wellness piece.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
how about you, Sandra? Talk a little bit about your photography.
yeah. So I have some kind of exciting news that just occurred to me as we were recording, which is this month, the beginning of this month, celebrates 10 years of me being in business full time as a photographer in the Pioneer Valley.
That's so exciting.
Isn't it? Like, all of a sudden I thought, ooh, I might have to offer some kind of special to folks who have worked with me in the past or who would like to work with me. Um, it's interesting. I have been interested in photography since I was in high school. That's when I really got into it. And after I left college, I became a graphic designer. I think I felt like becoming a photographer and starting up my own business was a little too tricky. So I did not do that. And then eventually it caught up with me. So 10 years ago, I went full time. And when I first began, I was shooting primarily weddings, but over the years, things have shifted. And in the last 2 or 3 years, I've really been moving away from wedding work. Um, this year was probably my last year of shooting weddings. And now I'm focused on three areas in particular. Number one, photographing women, both in a professional sense and personal storytelling. So the professional part of it is like headshots and branding sessions. And then the personal is a portrait, a type of portrait I call brave moments. So it's however it is that you want to be photographed at that time in your life. So that's the first area, women. The second is families. And the third is high school seniors. So I'm in the thick of that right now. And I love it. I mean, this is a thing that has been so neat about owning my own business, is that I can do more than just photography, meaning obviously I'm photographing people, but I can also pull in my design background when I'm creating books and products for people. I also, on occasion, will coach people, folks who are either photographers or creative types who are looking to move forward in their own ventures. And because of the experience I've had as an entrepreneur and as a creative type, I can share with them ways in which they can grow in their own journey. So yeah, I feel like, you know, my type of photography is not just about capturing a pretty picture, but it is about really going a little bit deeper, being authentic in the process in terms of how I collaborate with my client, and then helping people feel relaxed and engaged in such a way that the photographs I capture of them go beyond just a pretty picture. It really shows their true essence. And I hear that often from my clients, and it makes me very proud to know that there is such a connection, that they feel like they're in a safe space and are being taken care of. So that's a little bit about me and how I go, you know, run my business and then move through the world as the kind of photographer that I am.
That's fantastic. And I can attest to feeling safe. And also, you know, I had the opportunity to have you take my photograph for the Rock the Black dress event. And even though we're in a room full of a million people and a million distractions, you were solely focused on me and making me feel comfortable and making me feel like I was the only person in the room. And so I will attest to that was, you were able to block out everything else that was going on. And the photograph was lovely. I was really.
You're so kind. So kind. And what a beautiful, crazy night that was. I appreciate that you felt like I was focused on you because
I'm sure inside your brain, you were going a million miles an hour.
Well, it was a very social night, but it was so exciting to be able to then connect with people like yourself who I was meeting for the first time. And that's where that curiosity piece comes in, you know, where I really get to connect with folks. So thank you for saying that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was lovely. And I love that photograph. I use it for my headshot. It's amazing. Although we do need updates for sure. Coming soon.
Yes, coming soon. Yeah.
I know, because we change, you know, we change over time and our hair changes, and yeah, we just want things to be current. So Sandra, can you share with us what has been the biggest challenge for your business during this time? Because that's a one-on-one, you know, you have to be in the same space as folks. And I'm sure with COVID, people were panicking about booking events with you where they can be photographed.
Yeah, for sure. I think the most challenging part of being in a pandemic and being at home in quarantine was the 3 months that I wasn't working. And, you know, that began mid-March and went through mid-June. And so 3 months of being home, not seeing many people, and I'm an extrovert, so that was especially hard. Not seeing people, not working, not being creative was a very challenging time. And it was also a time of reflection that I didn't anticipate. You know, I think I said to someone in early summer, I said, if someone had said to me Okay. In order for you to really look at your business to see if it is going in the direction that you want it to, you should take 3 months off, stay at home, not see too many people, wear sweatpants every day, shower if you feel like it, and really spend that time digging deep and being creative in ways that you haven't been in a long time. I would have told them they were crazy and that it wasn't possible, because who would have thought that for 3 months I would be home and finding my way? But I wouldn't have said that in the very beginning, because in the very beginning, I certainly was, I was stressed like everyone else, because I was uncertain of the outcome of what was happening in terms of our world, but also what was coming next for my business, because I do connect with people in a very personal way and in very close quarters. So I was worried during that time. And I have to be perfectly honest with you, Nicole. I actually thought that I might close my business. I thought, well, if this is going to be this difficult, then it's possible that it may be time for me to look for a full-time gig, even though it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But it seemed like the practical thing to do in order to um, have a consistent work schedule and to get paid.
Mhm.
And that was, I mean, that was a really stressful time to be thinking about this business that I had been running for almost 10 years and me having to close the doors because of such uncertainty.
And all the hard work and preparation that you did over that 10-year period to get to where you are. I can
Yeah.
imagine the thought of just throwing that to the side and doing something different must have felt
Yeah.
almost paralyzing.
Yeah, yes, that is such a good word to use. I would say that I definitely was paralyzed. I found myself going to bed earlier, having a harder time getting up in the morning. And then I started to change some things around. I allowed myself to get creative in ways that I haven't been in a long time, cooking and sewing and photographing nature, doing things that I usually don't have time for. I started exercising more, walking more, sitting out in nature, all of these things that I don't generally have enough time for. Um, that was the first thing. And then the second thing was I started communicating with my clients by email. And it wasn't like, hey guys, I have these offers that I want you to consider. It was, hey guys, uh, I know that this is a really difficult time. I'm checking in. How are you doing? What's going on? I really want to stay connected with you. I hope that you'll reach back and tell me how you are. Here are some things that I'm doing to keep myself somewhat distracted. And it was Netflix movies or bread I was baking or, whatever it was. I was sharing pictures and, um, and getting into it that way. And through that, I was making, I was making new connections with current and past clients. And that really boosted my spirit. And I
Mhm.
also think it gave people a reason to look out for my next note and to keep in touch with me. It was really lovely.
That is fantastic. I love that. And I will share your sentiments in that I felt like I emotionally shut down a bit, especially at the beginning, because I felt untethered. I'm very
Mm.
structured with routine, especially because we've got a family of four with two teenagers. And so the whole transition with at home schooling was awkward, and we were all jockeying for Wi Fi connection. And I had the bit of the opposite than you in that I found myself, I'm a night owl. So I was staying up until 2, 3 in the morning. And
I
then
know I did that too, Nicole, for
it
a
was
little
so
while.
strange. And then, like
Yeah,
you said, I was having difficulty getting up in the morning. And thank goodness for Netflix because it was an escape
yeah,
because I didn't want to think about and stress about the what ifs. So that was my nighttime. That was really why I was staying up that late. I was just binging Netflix. Uh, but then, like you said, something shifted. I think when the weather broke And
Mm,
it started to be nice enough that we could get outside and open the windows, because that was piece of it too. Like, it was cold and rainy, and
it
it
was.
was just dreary out. But when that weather changed, I found that I dug into that self-talk about, okay, Nicole, is this really how you want to show up? And
Mhm.
you've worked so hard on your health and wellness journey. Why are you allowing yourself to go backwards? Because clearly, especially in midlife,
Yeah.
messing up our sleep rhythms
Yeah.
like that is no good.
Yeah, I would
So
agree.
my adrenals were all out of whack. I
Mm,
remember my naturopath saying, Nicole, what is going on with your sleep? Because I don't have a problem sleeping. Once my head hits the
mm,
pillow, I am out cold for a good 7 to 8 hours, like no interruptions. But because my timing was off, it was really messing up everything else in my body.
yeah.
And I made the commitment to start meditating, which
Oh,
I am one of those folks that I have a hard time sitting still. I'm constantly going.
yeah.
I'm making a note while I'm doing something else, and
Yeah.
I'll have ooh shiny object, and I'm off doing the next thing. And
Yeah.
so the thought of meditating for any amount of time, I don't care if it was a minute or an hour, was like nails on a chalkboard for me. I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, I can't do it. But it was so interesting because we're not sponsored by this, but I downloaded the Calm app on my
Oh,
phone
uh-huh. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I thought, well, this will be, I'll try it. And you could choose different levels of minutes that you meditated for. And so I started very
Mm,
small. I think I did like a minute to 3 minutes at the
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
And you could choose a male or a female voice. And they were both very pleasant to listen to. Well, soon after doing that for a while, and I would go out onto my screened in porch and open the windows and sit out there. I could hear the birds chirping, and
Mhm.
that was my beginning. I would drink my warm lemon water and I would sit and meditate. And it got to the point where I would get up to 10 minutes of meditation and almost be in such a relaxed state that I was disappointed when it was over. And there were a few
Mhm.
times when
Mhm.
I would actually do another session because I needed it. Like, I felt like, okay, this is setting my mindset for the day. And this is grounding me, and I could show up in a better space
Yeah.
so that when my kids are up and they're getting ready for school, like, I'm present and I'm with them. And yeah, and then I would move into doing some type of yoga practice. And
Mhm.
again, choosing that time frame, because I'll be honest, looking at an hour meditation class, I was like, oh, like, that's a lot of time when I had things that
It's a
needed to
lot.
do.
Yeah.
But I would choose 17 minutes or 20 minutes or a 10-minute. As long as I was doing a little bit every day, that was okay with me. And again, I
Yeah.
did an online through my phone Gaia app, super easy. So I had my mat rolled out, so it was there, right? And I've been hearing that with, I just finished Atomic Habits with James Clear, and he says that, like, set up your space for the habit you want to do.
Mm.
So just the habit of leaving my mat out in my dining room, which isn't being used during pandemic right now, just
Yeah.
leaving that out and seeing it visually is that encouragement, like, oh, I need to get my yoga practice in today, as opposed to the extra 2 minutes to unroll my yoga mat and put my blocks out and get all the area all set up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, that it was a transition.
Well, and if I can comment really quickly on that, one of the things that I forgot to mention that has happened since the beginning, or the beginning of the pandemic, was I have a friend who started doing a weekly mindfulness and connection 1 hour meeting on Fridays. And that started on at the end of March and is still continuing. We do it less now. We do it only once a month or twice a month. But that, it's similar to what you're saying about looking forward to the meditation or looking forward to the yoga. I had something that I knew was going to happen every Friday at 1 o'clock. And I knew that I was going to be within a group of women who I feel safe with, who I could talk about how I'm feeling, do my check-in. And because of that, and the guided meditation that we were led through, I knew that I would always have a consistent way to take care of myself.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's it's so important, and I love that this was really eye-opening for you to take that time for self-care and that check-in and hold ourselves accountable, because it's so easy to just let life get in the way for the important
Yeah.
stuff, and we really need to carve it. So I love that. Can you share a little bit, Sandra, about um, you thought a little bit outside the box during COVID, especially towards the end, where you were doing the memory walls?
Mm-hmm,
Can you
mm-hmm.
talk about how you brainstormed that? Was that something you had been thinking about for a long time, or did it just kind of come to you?
You know, it's interesting. I think sometimes when we're in the midst of fear, it's very difficult for us to be creative and to think outside the box because we're so worried of what's coming next. I think once I could get past some of that initial fear, then the innovator in me kicked in. And I feel like this is a time when many entrepreneurs are born because we have an opportunity to think outside the box. So I was thinking, well, if I am not going to be able to photograph people, how can I still provide them with memories and photographs, just ways that they can be surrounded by memories that are meaningful to them and make them feel good, especially when they're in their home all the time. So, you know, right outside of this room, I have a large wall that I have been wanting to fill with a gallery of images. And so I thought, if I can't be the only person who's at home right now thinking, oh my God, if I have to look at that wall one more time, and might be thinking, well, you know what? Maybe now's the time to put up those pictures from our Disney vacation or that last birthday party or whatever it was, you know, that they were thinking of. If I was thinking about it, I bet other people were too. So I found this product that I decided to offer that I call Memory Walls. And it is this collage of images that are mounted on a board and then hung in a particular configuration. And what I loved about this product was that we could use images that I had photographed. So if it was a client of mine and there were already images like, you know, in the bank, we could access those. Or if you weren't a client of mine, but you had a pile of digital images that you were dying to get up on your wall, I could work with either of these people. We would create that arrangement through Zoom, like everything was done online. I would do it through Zoom. And then the product is approved and created and shipped directly to the client. And they would get a how-to video as well as a printed map of the wall. And it was a piece of cake to hang up and anyone could have it.
That's
It was
so cool.
awesome.
Yeah. And I would think too, especially with young children, you could
Mm.
even incorporate some homemade art
Oh my,
interspersed
oh my God.
with
So
the photos.
yes,
That would be so cool, even if it's stuff they did during COVID, because I know a
absolutely.
lot of people were busting out the art supplies the past few months.
Well, and here's the other beautiful part of this whole memory wall project or piece that you could hang in your home. We can use cell phone photos. I mean, how many photos do you have on your cell phone that you never look at until you're sliding on your phone? And God forbid you lose everything on your phone, right? So this was an opportunity to take some of those favorite images, turn them into something you could hang on the wall. So it was for everyone. And while I marketed it a little bit, but not enough. That will happen soon going into the winter months. But it is a product that is out there that I think so many people will love.
That's
What
amazing.
about you? Like, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've had to think outside of the box in terms of your business? Because, you know, you were doing a lot of in-person parties.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the lifeblood of our business is gathering in somebody's living room and sharing our presentation with the mission and the message, and sometimes educating folks who, they were like me, they didn't know that like reading labels was a thing, right?
Yeah.
So clearly when COVID hit, all of that shut down because nobody was going anywhere to anyone's homes. And we really needed to pivot, and we needed to embrace technology, embrace Zoom, embrace Facebook. And that was really difficult for folks. I'm like you in that I'm comfortable being on camera. I have a television communications background, so I'm comfortable with going live. And there were women on my team that were not comfortable with that. I actually had a good friend of mine on my team, and I recall when she signed up to do this business, the one thing she said to me was, "Don't ever ask me to do parties. I'm never doing parties. And if you think I'm going to do a Facebook party, you're out of your mind, because that's just not my jam. I can't do it. It's too technical. It's too confusing. No." And so then COVID hit, and we were at a crossroads to decide with our businesses, how do we want to proceed? Are we going to lean into this and figure out how to maneuver through, or close it down for a bit, or just walk away entirely?
Mm.
And I'll never forget, she turned around and she reached out to me. She said, "By the way, I booked 6 parties on Facebook this month."
Wow.
I was blown away. I said, "Well, what changed your mind?" And she said, "I felt as though that was my only option, because I want to keep this going. I'm proud of the work I'm doing with this and the people that I'm affecting change with, and I don't want to give up on that. So I knew that I needed to dig in and figure out how to do this, even though it was scary as hell." And so she actually created, we do our Facebook parties inside of private Facebook groups. So she was smart enough to create a separate Facebook group with just her in there. And she would actually practice going live. And, a lot of it we read from a script outline, so we don't have to memorize it.
Yeah.
But from the first iteration, when she practiced, to the final, there was huge growth because she was practicing 2 or 3 times a day. She'd go in there and go live, and she said she would be sweating, even in just knowing that nobody was watching it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she would make eye contact. She would be looking at the script, or like all these things, but she was working out the kinks as she went along, which I thought was brilliant. And then when she got brave enough, she invited her daughter and I into the group and asked for critique. And of course we did it with an open heart, and giving her the compliment sandwich. I'm all about the compliment sandwich, where you say, "You did this perfectly. This is something you could work on. And then this was fantastic," right? Because that's what we need, especially if we're doing something that's so totally out of our comfort zone and scary. And she listened to the critique, she applied it, and she knocked it out of the park. And her hosts that decided to do these Facebook parties, they had an amazing experience. Their guests had an amazing experience, because people still wanted to shop online and not have to
probably more so now, Nicole.
Yes. Honestly, I'm like a huge fan of Instacart, because I do not want to go to the grocery store. No, if you're going to deliver it to my doorstep, I am all in. I don't want to go to stores if I don't have to. I avoid it at all costs.
Well, so, I have to tell you, the first time we used Peapod during during being at home, we looked at each other and said, "Why haven't we been doing this all the time?" Because one, somebody does it and you don't have to, it just shows up. And 2, you also get to budget as you're putting everything in your cart, as you're going along. I mean, there's so many benefits to doing things.
You don't need the buy 2, get 1 free that you walk past.
Most
and
of the
you
time
always
you
add it to your cart. That's the whole marketing, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I felt good because I was supporting somebody who was an employee through Instacart, and I was able to tip them, and they were supporting their family through, because who knows what situation put them in working for Instacart. They might have lost their regular job, and they were employed through this. So I felt like I was giving back to that person who was my driver, that was a big deal. So definitely pivoting, I think, with
Mm-hmm.
regard to embracing those online parties was huge. And also utilizing Zoom, because there's a lot of people that aren't on Facebook. So being able
Yeah.
to do like we're doing here is a little Brady Bunch scenario,
Yeah.
and being able to interact and talk so that they can ask questions and have that connection with me. And like you said, getting to know them and building those relationships,
Yeah.
because I'm all about that. I'm not doing my business to sell somebody a lotion. I want to get to know them. Who are they buying for? What are their concerns? What are they most interested in? Uh, and helping guide them, and being
Yeah.
sort of a steward to their wellness goals has been great. And another thing I think that has been a huge just peace of mind for
Mm.
me, but also that I could provide, was knowing that there was a long period of time where even ordering through Instacart and Peapod, you couldn't get certain products. You couldn't get surface cleaners, hand sanitizers, soaps.
Yeah.
I mean, things were stocked out for weeks, and
Yeah.
that was scary. I know a lot of people were putting out Facebook messages saying, "Does anybody know where I can find hand sanitizer?" for the longest
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And the fact that our company stepped up and in March actually released an FDA, World Health Organization approved uh, hand sanitizer with no harmful ingredients was huge. And the fact that we were fully stocked and it delivered to your door, I was
Wow.
like, yes,
Yeah.
please. So the fact that we were able to stock people's homes with cleaning products during all of this was amazing. And again, that peace of mind and knowing that, number one, what they're using is, there was no risk of the harmful ingredients knocking their immune systems, because that's a big thing, right? When we're in a pandemic,
Mm.
I know everybody was gravitating towards antibacterial everything, but that's a worse product you could use during a pandemic because it kills all the good bacteria and all the bad bacteria on your
Mm.
skin. And when you avoid that, you want to get rid of the bacteria and the germs, but you want to keep your good bacteria. And you
Yeah.
want to do that with regular hand soap, hand washing, without all the antibacterial stuff that they add to it. So
Right.
the fact that we're able to do that and support our immune systems and yeah, keep everybody healthy and stocked up, like I was all excited about that. And there were some women in our company who their businesses exploded during this time because they thought outside the box. They reached out to local businesses that needed to stock up on these cleaning products and
Wow.
got some really big accounts from that, which is huge. So, again, the opportunity was there for those that wanted to take that risk and get out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I think as this was all sort of happening, I found myself tweaking a
Mhm.
lot of ways that I was running my business that either I had thought about in the past, or I think during the time when I was home, I was like, my God, what am I waiting for? This is a perfect time to make some change.
Yeah.
Um, can you think of things that you did or that came your way that were really a silver lining to this very challenging time?
Well, I think the beauty of knowing that I could do this business from home
Mm.
was huge. And I counted my blessings every day on that I was able to be home and support my children, my business, my
Mm.
husband with his business, and run the home and keep everybody safe in the process. Because I was also looking after my in-laws and my mom at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And I would actually run groceries over to them, or I would, and keep everything at a distance. But if I had to
Mm.
go into a regular 40-hour a week position, I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable doing that, even from a
Yeah.
distance,
Yeah.
if I was interacting with other people. So that was a big piece of it, being able to work from home. Uh, and I think also from a leadership perspective,
Mm.
being able to meet my team members where they were at. And kind of like you were connecting with your customers, I was also doing that with the consultants that work with me, checking in with them. How are they doing? Eh, At the end of the day, it didn't matter. whether they were selling or not. It was on a very human level. How are
Yeah.
you managing? How's your family? Is everybody healthy? What's going on? And I found that I was doing that with people in my circle on a daily basis. I love the little birthday reminders that we get on Facebook every single day. That's my morning thing. I send little happy birthday messages to everybody in my feed who has one. But I found that another really positive exercise for me during this pandemic was every single day reaching out to at least 5 people with a check-in. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
are things going? What's going on up in Maine? You know, how are things going with work? Are you guys staying healthy? How are the kids transitioning with school? Like those type of things. So
Yeah.
it really just, I found those things that kept me grounded and connected, because that was a big piece. I think we were all feeling very disconnected.
Yes.
And so that's, I think I chose to really focus on what are the things I can control, right? How can
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
how can I show up, and also remembering how it feels when I get a check-in from somebody and it gives you that, oh, they took the time to reach out and make sure I'm doing okay,
Yeah.
and how you feel loved and supported even with that distance. So I wanted to give that of myself as well, because it didn't take long and it filled my cup. So I was definitely focusing on that, I think.
Yeah. I think that that human connection has been one of the more difficult pieces of this pandemic,
Yeah.
because so many people have felt isolated. And if you're living alone, and we're told that we really shouldn't be connecting anyone who isn't in our immediate family or our immediate home, then it's really hard. And so I think when you do run a business, um, obviously, in order for your business to run, you need to be having an income. But in order for your business to actually thrive, you need to have that human connection with the people that you serve, telling them, I see you, I
Yeah.
understand what your needs are, and I want to be there for you. And when you're able to do that, then you really have a very positive circle. You know, you've
Yes.
got all of those pieces coming together. And I know for myself, you know, I used to say this to people all the time. My passion is people. And, you know, a lot of what my business is about is making those connections. And then the photography comes second.
Yeah, I agree
Mm-hmm.
with you. And
Yeah.
I don't want to just be a, um, you know, right, where you're just doing the things to make the money. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's,
Mm-hmm.
there's something with that. So I agree with you 100% that, yes, the income is important, but, um, but having those connections and building those relationships are more so, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Sandra, can you share a little bit about what you're most excited for about the remainder of 2020 and what's to come in 2021 for your business?
You know, I find that to be an interesting and a little bit challenging question. I when I returned to work in mid-June, I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people who have been inquiring with me to have their photograph taken. And to say that I have been busy would be an understatement. And so I'm very, very grateful for how that has played out. Moving toward the winter and doing more work indoors is something I'm giving some thought to in terms of how I will continue to capture people and be connected. So, more to come on that. But what I do want to say is the um, the stories that I have been able to document over the last 4 months has really been incredible, and has jump-started my business in a way that I had not anticipated. And it has given me so much food for thought in terms of how I can better serve the people who come to me. And so I really look forward to offering new products, new ways in which I get to capture people, new storytelling sessions, and it makes me hopeful for moving into 2021, which I think is a really challenging thing to do these days with so much going on in the world and especially in the United States. So more to come on that, but I do feel as though in a lot of ways my faith has been restored, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. What about for you?
Well, I think, in spite of the madness that we've experienced this
Yeah.
year so far, I've had an amazing year in my business. I had shared with you earlier, I shared with some of my folks on Facebook that my business just exploded in that I think more people were really looking for wellness, looking for a way to stay safe and healthy. And the benefit of that was, I was able to not only earn an incentive trip for myself, but one of my team members earned her first incentive trip as well. We're going to Jamaica. Hopefully everything goes properly in the winter of next year. So that's super exciting. And knowing that um, the bravery to share this with families is what gave me that opportunity, right? Because owning your own business, your business is open when your mouth is open, and when you are willing to share what you have to offer. And you find, especially in the wellness space, when you find those like-minded folks, they will come. They find me. It's so, and it sounds a little woo-woo, like out in the universe, but what you put out is what you get back. And I
Yeah, I would agree.
wholly believe that. And uh, it's been a wonderful journey, I think, this year so far. And so on the one hand, we've had the stress and the anxiety and the unknown with everything that's gone on with the pandemic. But then on the pieces that I can control with my business, it's been really positive, and there's been a lot of growth there. And I'm looking forward to that just continuing and blossoming and flourishing, and really being able to be a cheerleader for the folks that are now a part of my organization and help them to meet their goals. Because I think the network marketing space, sometimes it's looked at in a negative light. And I'll tell you that there's less stress because it's not a brick and mortar where you're dealing with R&D and payroll and
Mm-hmm.
the cost of running an actual building with everything that goes with it, and employees and health insurance and all that stuff. So it's all based on how hard do I want to work, and how am I going to show up to this? And am I going to really commit to this and give it priority? So I'm looking forward to see, what challenges will come in the next year, and how this is just going to continue to grow, because it really is a grassroots movement, but I think so many more people are paying attention to it. And I'm not in the job of convincing. I'm in the job of offering. This is what I'm all about. And people either vibe with that or they don't, and
Yeah.
because I think you know me well enough to know at this point that I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I just put it out there for who I am and what I'm all about. And I've found that folks that are like-minded and are in that same space, we just gravitate and we gel. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to more of that in the coming year and the end of this year, especially, with the holidays. And I think we're just going to continue. I don't want to go to the mall to shop. Sorry to say. I want to order online. I want to support as many women-owned businesses as I possibly can through the holidays.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah. I want to ask one other question before we start to wrap up, which is, for folks who have experienced harder times and are struggling with their business, how do you what sorts of tips or ideas do you have about moving in pivoting, really thinking outside the box, doing things differently because they have to due to this virus? Do you have any thoughts on ways in which people can start to make more positive change in their life or business?
I think mindset is a huge piece. And there's no one size fits all. I am a big believer in development. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. I'm listening to books on Audible. Finished, like I said, Atomic Habits by James Clear, which was amazing. Prior to that, I listened to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and I forget the other one I listened to, The Four Agreements. So
Oh, yeah.
again, just, really getting your mindset in check. And that can be done, through those different mediums. But I find that connecting with a mentor, it could be somebody in your field, it could be somebody that's more in a generic space that's like a business coach, can be super helpful. And,
Yeah.
you want somebody that will help you level up, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're stuck and you're overwhelmed, and you're feeling like, how do I get out of this negative mindset? Really working with an accountability partner help break you out of that. And yes, sometimes I think there's an investment that comes with that we have to be willing to invest in ourselves, whether that's time or money, to learn and to grow and to hopefully come away from that with some inspiration, motivation, maybe action steps to get you either through or over the hump.
Yeah.
And just sometimes it can really just shift your entire trajectory of your business,
Yeah.
and take you in a whole other direction that you, had you not gone through that experience, would never have gotten you to where you are. So
Yeah.
I definitely would, we've had a ton of amazing coaches on this podcast. You could always go back and listen. I know Wendy Parati comes to mind. She's fantastic with coaching women and helping them get over themselves, because I think fear is what holds us back in so many ways.
Yeah.
We're so afraid of fail. We are so afraid of falling on our face. We're so afraid of how we're going to look to other
Yeah.
people.
It's
And at
about
the end of the
judgment.
day,
Judgment.
it is. And the folks who are making it right now in business, they don't care. They will fall down 99 times and they will get up 99 times. And it's how you react to it and how you persevere and the grit that you have to decide, you know what, I'm going to make this work come hell or high water, and
Yeah.
really dig
Yeah.
in. And I think, again, that adjusting your mindset to thrive is huge.
Yeah. I want to comment on a couple things. One, I really do think that grit is a big piece of folks moving forward and being successful. With that said, I do have compassion for some folks who find themselves in a situation where there are things that are out of their control and have really gotten in the way of having a full-time job or having a business. So I really feel for those folks. But what I have found over time is connecting with people who I see are making positive changes within their business. I reach out to them immediately because I think, well, if they're doing something that is working for them, maybe they would be willing to help me, or at least help me think things through differently. A couple of weeks ago, I did an online conference that was meant for photographers, and there was a woman on there who talked about her business, what she had planned and had been planning for a couple of years, but because of COVID, it wasn't going to happen anymore, and she completely changed it around. She had a studio. She had these sets that she had made for a specific project. Well, with COVID, she ended up closing her studio. The sets were no longer meaningful. She changed it around so those sets became mobile so she could do shoots in garages. And then she began selling those sets to other photographers so they too could do the same thing. Anyways, I was very inspired by her a change of course because she had to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just about being creative. And sometimes it really is about reaching out to someone else who can help you expand your ideas in ways that you never imagined.
And that might not be your everyday girlfriends that you talk to, especially if
Right?
they're not in the entrepreneurial mindset space. And
Yeah.
that's okay. If you have to reach out to a stranger, as long as you vibe with them and you can get inspiration. And sometimes it's a good connection, sometimes it's not. But I had shared with you earlier that I'm going to be joining into a virtual training session tonight with a gentleman who's in the network marketing space in a generic level. And I've been to conferences that he's hosted in Vegas twice now and one virtual. And whenever I walk away from that, I feel completely fired up. Like, I have so many great ideas. I just have to jump in and these are the things I want to do. So hearing that, like you had mentioned, what are some action steps? I think it needs to be a good blend of you can do this, believe in yourself, whatever you put your mind to, and get that mindset piece, but then that action step, like this is what
Yeah.
you need to do to get from A to B. And sometimes the path from A to Z might be really winding and back circular and it's
Yes.
not a
Not
straight
straight.
line.
Yeah.
No, but that's
Yeah.
okay because it's not a destination. It's all about the journey that you take to get there.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot. And that's where you learn and you grow. And yes, it can be uncomfortable and painful sometimes, but it's so worth it because we always love those underdog stories, right?
Yeah.
We love them. We eat
Um,
them.
I want to put something out to our listeners.
Yeah.
I want to say if there's someone out there who is struggling right now and they want to have someone to talk to, reach out to me. I love brainstorming. And as much as like if I have the time for it, I will say yes to it. So if there's anyone looking for a little creative brainstorming, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Or if you want to do a photo session this winter, reach out to me that way. I mean, that is another way of being creative.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. And I will also put out there that if you're in the wellness space,
Mm.
and again, you need help with figuring out. I love Marie Forleo says everything is figure outable, right? I just
Mm-hmm.
downloaded that book on Audible.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, you're gonna love it.
yeah, I can't wait. So definitely reach out to me as well for that. And if health and wellness is something that you're really sort of hyper focusing on right now, booking a session with me to do a Zoom or a Facebook gathering where we can share information, learn, and
Mm-hmm.
empower each other, please reach out. We'll definitely make sure to put both of our connections in the show notes for this podcast so that you can reach out to both of us. But
Yeah.
Sandra, this is an amazing conversation, and I appreciate you and everything that you bring as an entrepreneur to this, as well as to a co-host. And yeah, I hope that our listeners took away a few good tips from us today.
Mm-hmm. Well, the beauty of all of this, Nicole, is that you and I will continue to do the work as entrepreneurs, and we'll continue to be able to share lessons that we learn along the way. And more than anything, we'll be able to share through the work that we're doing on the Messy Middle road trip.
Got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Messy Middle Road Trip podcast and feel inspired to step outside of your comfort zone and take a risk with your career. Falling is part of learning, as is failing. And you cannot grow without it. There's no shame in that. Only the opportunity to become who you were meant to be.
If you want to keep the conversation going, visit us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or at messymiddleroadtrip.com. And if you like what we're doing, which I hope you do, please consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a rating and review so that we can reach more amazing midlifers.
We are looking forward to our next road trip with you. Until then, thanks for riding shotgun.
Bye.